Afternoon at 2 on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Now is the time we have to come together as one and work together to do things together, to live peacefully together, everything together. Together alone, alone together.
We cannot talk about all hands on deck and seek simple solutions to complex problems. We must continue to work together. The mothers who are mourning the losses of their children, the people who are afraid to go out into the stores and into the streets, the people who are unable to come downtown today to go to work are looking for answers, not blame. We have been working diligently since COVID.
That's word, the soothing sounds of Kim Foxx, your Cook County State's attorney. She also mentioned that
dishonest blame games.
They have been a loyal partner to law enforcement throughout her term.
We have been a partner to law enforcement throughout the last several months, particularly in these challenging times. I think it's incumbent upon us, for the people that we serve, and I say all of us the people that we serve, that we have an honest conversation about what's happening right now.
Honesty.
It does not serve us to have dishonest blame games when all of our hearts are breaking by what we are seeing.
We're all in this together. I'm just like you, Dan. I hurt too.
Yeah, again.
And we're in a weird space. 2020 is an anomaly.
I appreciate Kim Foxx. I appreciate Kim Foxx's emotional solidarity with the populace, but I just wish she'd do her job as the way prosecutors used to do it before people ran for district or regional prosecuting attorney, so that they could release predatory criminals back in the streets, which is what Kim Foxx has done. It's not just the Chicago Tribune report saying it. It's actual specific cases. It's not just the data in aggregate. It's specific cases that we went through last hour that speak to the philosophy of Kim Foxx, the philosophy of Tim Evans, the philosophy of Lori Lightfoot, the philosophy of Tony Preckwinkle, the philosophy of Tom Dart, the philosophy of J.B. Pritzker, the philosophy of the Chicago Democrat Socialist power structure in this state, and particularly the city. That's the philosophy. The philosophy is affordable bail. The philosophy is only violent repeat criminals are held away from society awaiting trial and have sometimes significant sentences imposed. Everything else, it's criminality is a public health problem, and we're going to social worker and counsel our way out of it. That's the approach. That's the approach. We need to end the school to prison pipeline. We need to stop incarcerating black men. Those are indicative that those realities are indicative of systemic racism, and in order to be anti-racist, you can't be putting black men in prison, or minorities generally in prison. I suppose you can make the argument. It's an ideology. These are not solutionists. There's no common sense here. This is the rigid imposition of an ideology, and Kim Foxx was just presenting a sentimental patina over a very ugly, unsentimental ideology. That's what she did yesterday. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Pat O'Brien. He's a former Cook County Circuit Court judge. He's now the Republican candidate for Cook County State's Attorney running against Kim Foxx. Pat, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan, Amy. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and so Kim Foxx said, look, she is working with law enforcement, and she is prosecuting cases that are under sort of the looting umbrella. She is also prosecuting violent offenders. There's no free passes from Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx.
Well, I wish all that was true. Then I wouldn't have to be running for state's attorney. The vision she paints is a false one, which essentially a lot of the media buys in order to basically cover up the fact that she's not prosecuting basically anyone. And she's failed at every stage where the state's attorney has to step in, charging, holding people accountable while they wait trial, and trials themselves.
And when yesterday she said, of the first riot that happened May 30th, of the 1,258 that were arrested, 29% were felony cases, and the rest were just municipal code violations and misdemeanors. If you become the state's attorney, would you change that or try to change that?
Well, a state's attorney is the last voice for people that are victims of crime. How can you then say, I will somehow keep silent and have an effective office and have the safety in the community? Of course I would change it. Now, even on May 31st, we looked at the court bond system, and there were, I think, 8 cases that came out of the looting that showed up in court Sunday. 5 of those cases, 3 were looting, 1 was battery to police, and the other was charged, I think, as a burglary. Her office stood by while the judge and the state's attorney, complicit, gave signature bonds, which meant that the person signed their name, went through the revolving door so they could rejoin a continuing riot that very night. That's unacceptable.
Should it take so long? She mentioned that these cases from May 30th are just going to trial or just moving to disposition now. Should it take that long to process? She said 29% of the cases were of this variety that are going to be prosecuted. Should it take that long to move these cases of criminal damage to property and theft and burglary along?
Well, the first step that has to be taken, and obviously we're dealing with a system that's partially shut down, where Kim Foxx herself admitted from March 18th until the 31st of May, she was at home. So it's understandable that things aren't moving along because the state's attorney has decided that it's okay to be a bystander to the system. Now, it does take a little time to get cases through, but the felony cases, there should have been a preliminary hearing or a grand jury indictment. So there should have been some indication that by probable cause, those 29% of the cases had at least moved to the stage where you're not making guesswork of whether they should continue on.
What's the atmosphere like at the Cook County State's Attorney's office right now? Is there any level of respect between assistant Cook County State's attorneys and her?
I think the clear answer to me is no. However, it's unclear to me how many of the people that she hired since she's been in there are actually state's attorneys. So it's going to be something that has to be examined. You can do a lot of damage to an office in 3.5 or 4 years.
Cook County State's Attorney Foxx also did the whole kind of look. I'm for bail reform and affordable bail. That's been a good thing. That's certainly been the policy Tim Evans has inculcated in the system. But then also did the whole innocent bystander routine. We don't set bail. So which is it? Are Foxx and Tim Evans and the judges working in concert with one another when it comes to setting bail for those charged with crimes, or is it the case that Cook County judges are just much more lenient than Kim Foxx wants them to be?
The first thing I'd say is if Kim Foxx wants to absent herself from all this, she's going to have to explain why it was that she was a big supporter and probably the big reason why the statute passed, which changed bail from one where the expectation on violent crime was there would be a cash bond that had to be set and paid, to affordable bail, which essentially, if you don't have any money, means you walk out the door. That's her statute that she basically was in back of. And if the state's attorney in Cook County doesn't back a change like that, it doesn't happen. The legislators wouldn't do it.
And isn't it the case that judges are normally take the recommendations or come within close approximation of the recommendations of the prosecuting attorney?
The state's attorney is the key element in a bail and in trial and all the other stages. And the judges themselves, having been one, nobody wants to get on the wrong side of the state's attorney because their pulpit is loud and strong. The state's attorney, when they sit back, they allow other kinds of voices to be heard which don't represent the victim. The state's attorney is the primary voice. And in Kim Foxx's reign, the state's attorney is as silent as a tree.
Mm-hmm. Now, how hard has it been to campaign during a pandemic, and we're less than, 90 days to the election? What are you doing? How are you getting the word out, and how can we learn more information about you?
Well, the website is o'brienforcook.com. And in the last, certainly I've been campaigning, and we've been raising money, and we're going to be obviously ramping up. But it is hard to campaign during during this virus. But there's money coming in, thanks to your program, Laura Ingraham, thanks to Kim Foxx and her missteps. People are deciding that they've got to have an alternative. They got to fire Kim Foxx and hire Pat O'Brien.
Well, how much of a relationship should the mayor have with the Cook County State's Attorney, and what's your assessment of the way Lightfoot and Chief Brown, Police Superintendent Brown, have addressed the other side of the justice system, the criminal justice side of the justice system?
Well, there isn't a state's attorney in the world that's going out and making arrests on cases. We need the police, whether it's the Chicago Police Department on cases in the city or the suburban departments in the cases outside the city. So Kim Foxx should have been standing with Superintendent Brown back on May 31st, back yesterday morning, as opposed to having a separate press conference. She should have been downtown when this was going on, trying to figure out how more effectively she could prosecute and help Superintendent Brown. And as for the mayor, I think she wants to do the right thing. And don't forget, when I'm state's attorney, I've got to work with her. She certainly is a better partner than Tony Preckwinkle or the governor.
And with respect to Foxx and Brown, I suspect a lot of trust was broken with the handling of the Jussie Smollett case, but has that now just deteriorated to the point where it's just a show for the public? Superintendent Brown has come very close to calling Kim Foxx out by name, but has stopped short. It seems to me there's no real working relationship between the Cook County State's Attorney and the Chicago Police Superintendent, and that strikes me as a real problem, as you were describing.
Yes, when you see the police as enemy as opposed to a cooperative partner, you've got a broken system. I appreciate Superintendent Brown's position where he's going to have to work with her for the next 4 months, but I hope that's as long as it is. But I would suggest that it's time for people to step up, stop looking at their political careers, and start looking at the health of the city, which drives the economy of the state, and say to themselves, we cannot stand another 4 years of Kim Foxx. We've got to get rid of her.
One other thing that I've raised a few times, and I'll raise it with you, is this idea of the Cook County State's Attorney working perhaps in conjunction with the feds, with the U.S. Attorney's Office, to bring RICO cases against the significant gang/drug operators in the city, though in a way that hasn't been done, since basically the El Rukin days. And it just seems to me, thinking about these massive criminal enterprises that are basically the responsible party for a majority of the violent crime in the city, separate and distinct from the looting that went on last night. But, the point is 466 murders. This is mostly gang-related and drug-related activity. Well, why not try to go after the heads of these significant gang drug operations the way that Giuliani went after the heads of mafia crime families in New York?
I couldn't be more in agreement. We've had a state RICO statute which essentially mirrors the federal statute and allows us to go after gang organizations at the top, even though they're not present and committing the murders themselves. Now, this statute came into being, I think, in 2013 under State's Attorney Alvarez. There have been 3 RICO prosecutions in Cook County since then. The last one had been organized by State's Attorney Alvarez and actually went to trial when Kim Foxx started her regime. She has not, to my knowledge, nor to the public's knowledge, done anything to go after gang structures. She thinks that to be the next state senator for this state, when the opening comes, he's got to be a non-prosecutor. That to toss the citizens of this county under the political wheels of her bus in order for her to get higher office, that's the real crime. Well,
it is, but she's obviously been watching how other people do it, and it seems to work in Illinois, so I guess I can understand her approach, even though I don't agree with it. He is former Cook County Circuit Court Judge Pat O'Brien, now the Republican candidate for Cook County State's Attorney. And Pat, the website again for more information.
Sure, O'BrienForCook.com. I welcome your donations.
Yes, I'm sure you do. Yeah. O'Brien, Obrien, for those who are not fluent in Irish around the city. I don't know who that would be.
Yeah,
but,
I don't either.
Pat O'Brien, thanks so much for joining us, and continued luck with your candidacy. Appreciate it.
Dan, Amy, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yep. And continued luck to your show.
Thanks. O'BrienForCook.com, and he joined us on our Turnkey.com answer line.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show